we gather ourselves into this place of beginnings, into this place of belonging, ripe with expectations, ready to feast on possibility and on an education that nurtures character in our search for knowledge, integrity in our common labor, consciousness in our playful pleasure, resilience in our unexpected challenges, and compassion in our care for our own self and for others. On this morning of beginning, when we throw wide open the doors of our minds and hearts, may we dare to live into our desire to learn and grow with curiosity, trusting in the unfolding of this amazing process. And may the sacred bless us and join us on this adventure. Amen.
Please be seated. Good morning. Welcome to our new students, returning students, new and returning faculty and staff, trustees, alumni, distinguished guests, and friends to opening convocation, the official commencing of our 140th academic year. I'm thrilled to greet you today as we celebrate our college's foundation, learning, and teaching. Our institution, located in the Rocky Mountain West, was founded to provide knowledge-seeking individuals with a place to be intellectually curious and daring. It's with our founders' ambitions in mind that we remain passionately dedicated to creating a learning environment rich with opportunity for self-exploration and growth. For our new students, you are now joining a legacy that encourages you to think deeply and differently, to go beyond your initial thoughts and assertions and blaze a path that questions conventional ideas. The distinguished alumni that we recognize today, Paul Franco, class of 1978, and Susan Takow, class of 1976, have utilized their Colorado College educations to both transform the lives of individuals and make lasting contributions to their professions. I hope that you'll take time to read more about them and imagine ways you can follow their leads and leverage the knowledge and skills you will acquire here to make positive contributions to your communities throughout your lives. Now it's my pleasure to introduce a student leader that has already begun to impact those around him. Prior to becoming the student body president of Colorado College, Isaac Green was the co-chair of the Honor Council, and he currently serves as the chair of the Student Conduct Committee and a member of the Blue Key Honor Society, Globe Med, and the CC Concert Band. Isaac is a political science major from Chicago, and he spent his summer running an internship program for Organizing for Action, a nonprofit organization established to support the agenda of President Obama. Please join me in welcoming Isaac Green.
Hello, everybody. Faculty, staff, trustees, students, friends. I'm honored to be up here speaking to welcome you to the new year. I could tell you about how our institution was a place founded to cultivate intellectual curiosity and daring, but you already know this. That's why you're here. I could tell you how our institution encourages you to think deeply and leverage the knowledge and skills of those around you in a liberal arts setting, but you already know this. That's why you're here. So all I can tell you, faculty, staff, trustees, students, and friends, are the observations that I've made about how to best live this amazing Colorado College life, and some of the lessons that I've learned. First, college is a time to pursue intellectual passions, yes, but more importantly, to take intellectual risks. You have hundreds and hundreds of classes to choose from, and only 32 blocks to fill. For us seniors, we have 8 blocks left, 6 of which are going to be in our major, and 1 of which is going to get the last D credit. So we're going to be making a conscious decision to try something new. There aren't too many opportunities in life where you can actually randomly flip through a course catalog and pick literally anything that is there. It is of no consequence whether we take political philosophy, film studies, basket weaving, economics of inequality, or linear algebra. That last one isn't for me, but the point is the same. You have to take your intellectual risk and make that leap. My second piece of advice is to get to know your professors, in and out of the class. The Colorado College faculty are some of the best in the world, best in their fields, and they care deeply about teaching, they care deeply about us, and you should take advantage of their office hours, see if you can do research with them, ask them questions, and get to know them beyond the classroom. My third piece of advice is to hold yourselves to a high standard. Set the bar high, make lofty goals. If you don't reach them, I'm sure you learned something. Hold yourselves to high standards of conduct in everything you do. If you see something, say something, be a good neighbor. All the interesting mottos that we decide to hold ourselves to, we need to have high standards as members of the college community and the city community. In the world, there are 2 types of games. There are solvable games and unsolvable games. The solvable games are ones like tic-tac-toe and Connect 4, where there is a perfect move in every situation. You can guarantee victory or success, and there are perfect plays. Then there are unsolvable games, where you have to make the best decision you can based on the information you have, and you never have full information. Living, as a game, hasn't been solved and will never be solved. You have to make the best move you can, and it will never be perfect. When you have an opportunity to make the world a better place, you have to take that opportunity. When you have an opportunity to make a great friend or develop a new relationship, you have to take that opportunity. When you find a passion, whether academically or otherwise, you have to take that, and you have to follow that passion, because if you don't, we don't have the luxury of passing up opportunities. We must act on them as they arise. As my father always says, waiting is a decision. You will have an opportunity to do something cool today or tomorrow or the next week, and every time you say, I'll do that later, or maybe next weekend, or how about next block, you're losing an opportunity to do something unique. You're missing an opportunity to have new experiences, meet new people, better yourself, and do something, frankly, that would be awesome. So we are confronted with these decisions every day that will determine who we are and what change we can make on the world as global citizens. We can't wait for the world around us to have things happen. You are at Colorado College. We are on the block plan. Our lives are hectic, busy, frantic, and frankly, quite crazy. But if you want to be a speechwriter later in your life, you can't wait to write speeches until much later. If your life goal is to ensure that people across this nation can be fed and don't go hungry, you can't wait to begin that journey. You don't have time to spare. So start writing speeches today and start working at the soup kitchen on campus today. There's no reason to wait for these things to happen. Make things happen. Don't wait for change. Make change. At this school, we have endless resources available to us. We have a collection of books, unmatched. We have libraries in which to examine things. We have technologies that make research far easier than some of our faculty seem to remember. We have studios for crafting arts of many varieties. We have facilities that foster fitness of the body and the mind. Everything we could possibly need for academic, intellectual, and physical advancement is here. But we cannot utilize these important resources without making a conscious decision to do so. So we have to decide to activate our minds, and decide to activate our bodies, and decide to activate our academic rigor. Therefore, the best piece of advice I can give you, whether you're a faculty member considering writing about a new topic or a freshman considering joining a particular club, just do it. Don't wait. So, in review, my 4 pieces of advice are to take intellectual risks, to get to know your professors, to hold yourselves to the highest standards in everything you do, and that waiting is a decision, and you just have to do things. And so, faculty, staff, trustees, students, and friends, on this first day of school, we remember that some of us are entering this great time of our lives now. Some of us are in our last year of it. Some of us have lost great friends along the way. Some of us faced great trials and struggles to get here. Some of us are struggling to pay for this. But you will find a way, through friendships and professors, through living, through taking risks, through everything, to call this place home. And the first day that you do that, the first day that you actively call this place home, you'll never forget. But you already know that, and that's why you're here. Thank you.
President Green, Dean Wong, President Green, Dean Wong, President Tiefenthaler, Chaplain Holbrook, faculty colleagues, students, and friends. It is my great honor and complete pleasure to present my friend and hero, Susan Tackow, for the degree Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa. Students, I have known Susan Tackow for 35 years. She is the first person from Colorado College I ever met. It was 1978. I was an intern for the Congressman Clarence D. Long. She was the legislative assistant in charge of student interns. She was my boss. Susan Tackow is a positive energy bomb. She is unrelentingly positive. While her son, Michael, lives with the limitations of his own cerebral palsy, there are many people with his and other disabilities who live better lives because of the work Susan, now Dr. Tackow, through the Pennsylvania Adaptive Technology Foundation, many Pennsylvanians have received microcredit loans that allow them to live independently and have real choices about how they live and where they can work. Her colleague, Lance Alexander of Mobility Works, puts it best. She doesn't stop. She lives and breathes it from the time she gets up in the morning to the time she goes to bed at night. It is all about the work, all about the advocacy. I am sure that it was born out of being a mom of someone with a disability, but she is like a mom to everybody with a disability. And if you mess with her cubs, you get the paw. Susan, you are Colorado College at its best. Engaged, energetic, and innovative. We are proud to confer upon you this honorary degree.
By action of a joint committee of faculty and trustees, and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I confer upon you, Susan Tackow, the degree Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa, and admit to you all rights and responsibilities pertaining to this degree. As a token of this honor, I ask that you be vested with a hood appropriate to the degree, and I present you with this diploma.
Madam President, I have the honor to present Paul Franco for the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. Paul Franco, Professor of Political Science at Bowdoin College, is a summa cum laude Phi Beta Kappa graduate of Colorado College, class of 1978. Thereafter, he earned the Master of Science degree in the History of Political Thought at the London School of Economics and his PhD at the University of Chicago in 1987. He taught as a lecturer and instructor at Chicago before moving to Bowdoin in 1990, becoming a full professor in 2001. His dissertation on the thought of Michael Oakeshott was published in 1990, the first doctoral thesis on Oakeshott at the University of Chicago, and he is a member of the executive committee of the Michael Oakeshott Association. Professor Franco is also the author of 3 other books on Hegel, on Nietzsche, another book on Oakeshott, and the co-editor of a 5th. He's published numerous articles and reviews. He has held research fellowships from the Earhart and Olin Foundations and a National Endowment for the Humanities Fellowship for college teachers. He is a distinguished scholar in the field of political philosophy, and we honor him for these accomplishments, which also honor his alma mater. But we also honor him, perhaps even more, for his commitment to the great tradition of liberal learning and as an inspiring teacher, one who instantiates and carries forward the commitment to liberal arts education, which has always been and continues to be the hallmark of this college. For extraordinary teaching and scholarship in the service of the liberal arts, Madam President, I am happy and honored to present Paul N. Franco for the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
By action of a joint committee of faculty and trustees and by virtue of the authority vested in me, I confer upon you, Paul Franco, the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, and admit you to all rights and responsibilities pertaining to this degree. As a token of this honor, I ask that you be vested with the hood appropriate to the degree, and I present you with this diploma. We're now privileged to hear Paul Franco deliver the Convocation Address, which he has titled From a Small College in Colorado to a Small College in Maine. Paul.
Thank you, President Tiefenthaler, and thank you, Tim, for that very generous citation. And thank you, Colorado College in general, for this tremendous honor. No recognition could mean more, at least to me, than receiving an honorary degree from one's alma mater. I am deeply honored and enormously grateful. Before I begin, I want to just acknowledge 2 special people in the audience, my wife Jill and my daughter Claire. I'm so glad that they could make it here today, not least because I've been trying to convince them for years that I'm not a total non-entity. This honorary degree has hugely bolstered my case. So I've been asked to say a few words about how Colorado College prepared me for my career and life with a view to offering some useful advice to the new class of students about how to make the most of their time here. I can already hear some of the groans. Not another speech that dispenses yet more advice about how to navigate one's liberal arts experience. Having taught at a college very similar to CC, I know that you have already heard many such speeches over the course of a fairly lengthy orientation period, and that you are champing at the bit to just get started. So I will try to be brief. I could, in fact, be very brief. How did Colorado College prepare me for my life and career? Well, I went to CC almost 40 years ago and studied intellectual history and political philosophy. I now teach intellectual history and political philosophy at a small liberal arts college in Maine. The line of causation seems pretty direct. I could end this talk right now. Such brevity would no doubt please many of the students in the audience, but I have a sense that the people responsible for inviting me here would feel a little cheated. So I'm going to have to delve a little bit deeper into my experience at CC and the path that led me to where I am today. I arrived at CC in 1974. It was a pretty dramatic moment in American political history. President Nixon had resigned a few weeks earlier, bringing to an end the Watergate scandal that had dominated the national consciousness for almost 2 years. The Vietnam War was in the process of ending. The last American troops left in 1973. The 60s were still very much in the air, though there was a certain anxiety among me and my classmates that they were quickly fading and that we had missed the boat. I myself remember feeling particularly uninteresting when I arrived at CC because I had traveled all of 70 miles from Lakewood, Colorado. Indeed, I was so self-conscious about my bland point of origin that I began to tell people that I was from Fargo, North Dakota. That was a pretty exotic place to be from, and there was little risk that anyone would call me on it. Then I met somebody from Fargo. My fraud was easily exposed when I had trouble remembering which high school I had gone to, what the bowling alley that everybody hung out at was called, and indeed the name of a single inhabitant of that fair city. After that, I went back to being from boring old Lakewood, sometimes slightly embellishing my biography by hinting that my father was an ex-convict. In only one respect was I at all unusual when I arrived at CC. I had the most unrealistic expectations of what college life was going to be like. Being of a somewhat bookish nature, I anticipated that my days would be spent in unending Socratic conversation about great writers, great books, and great ideas. My most faithful interlocutor would, of course, be my roommate, whom I was particularly eager to meet on that first day. I entered my room on Loomis Ground West, and there he was, a lanky fellow from Idaho. I was anxious to find out what his intellectual predilections were. Did he like Dostoevsky? Had he read Kerouac? Was he an existentialist? Or perhaps even a Buddhist? So I asked him what made him choose Colorado College. He replied that he was particularly attracted by the intramural hockey program. Thinking he was being ironic, I laughed. Then he said, no, seriously, that's why I came. I was close to weeping. As it turned out, he became one of my best friends in college. He was also a brilliant physics student, and needless to say, a heck of a good intramural hockey player, which brings me to my first piece of sage advice. Don't judge your roommate too quickly. He or she may not be what you expected, but that's the whole point, to get to know people who are different from you. 2 weeks into my first block at CC, I had my first intellectual epiphany, although I did not realize it at the time, which means that technically it really wasn't an epiphany. It was the centennial year of the college, and to celebrate the occasion, the British political philosopher Michael Oakeshott had been invited to give the big lecture. I had no idea who this was, but because it was still the first heady days of college, I decided to attend the lecture, which was entitled A Place of Learning. I can't say that I understood much of it. It was quite abstract and delivered in a highly academic English accent. But somehow I sensed that Oakeshott was saying something of the utmost importance about the nature of liberal arts education, which he described as an initiation into the great conversation between the various modes of understanding and interpretation that make up our civilization. What I did not realize at the time was that I would end up studying with Oakeshott at the London School of Economics after graduating from CC, and that I would eventually write a dissertation and a couple of books on him. This brings me to my second piece of advice. Go to every lecture, performance, and exhibition that you can, even, indeed, especially if it is not required or immediately relevant to your academic program. This is how serendipitous discoveries are made, and the great thing that liberal arts colleges like provide is multifarious opportunities for just such serendipitous discovery. Okay, I've spoken for almost 10 minutes, and I'm only to the second week of my college career. At this rate, it will be block 5 before I get to my graduation. I'm going to have to abbreviate. Sophomore year was the crucial turning point in my academic trajectory at CC. I took 2 remarkable classes from 2 remarkable professors, Susan Ashley's course on the French Revolution and Tim Fuller's introductory survey of political philosophy. The first course led me to become a history major, and the second led me to graduate study and eventually a career in political philosophy. Professor Fuller, by the way, was the person responsible for inviting Oakeshott to CC and for urging me to go to London to study with him. I, of course, took many more courses with Professors Ashley and Fuller during my time at CC, and to this day, I continue to draw upon their insights, inspiration, and example. Fortunately, they are both still teaching, and you too can take courses from them. But my broader piece of advice, and here I'm echoing something that Isaac already said, the broader piece of advice is connect with the amazing faculty here at CC. To have that close working relationship with a professor is why you come to a place like this. At the end of the day, education is a highly personal transaction between a teacher and a student. Despite what enthusiasts of online education promise, nothing can take the place of that personal and costly relationship. I would be remiss if, in addition to my inspiring teachers, I did not mention my equally inspiring classmates. Your classmates are the people you eat with, study with, have philosophical conversations late into the night with, go on block breaks with. They are an incredibly important part of your education at CC, as at any residential liberal arts college. I was particularly fortunate during my time at CC to be surrounded by an extraordinarily interesting and talented group of students. In the wake of the 60s, CC, with its block plan and its mountains and its Western openness, was something of an alternative to the traditional ivy-covered colleges of the East, and it attracted an unusual number of free spirits and academic risk-takers. Many of them went on to become distinguished poets, novelists, journalists, scientists, scholars, and leaders. One of these, actually, is my fellow honorand, Susan Takow. 2 of my contemporaries actually became professors at CC, David Hendrickson in political science and David Mason in English. I could tell you many inappropriate stories about these 2 individuals when they were students, but I will leave it at you should put them on your list of must-take professors along with Ashley and Fuller. I left CC a better thinker, a better writer, a better speaker, and yes, maybe even a better partier. I left with the sense that the world was even more interesting, ambiguous, and mysterious than I had ever imagined. Above all, I left with a love of this sort of place, this intense sort of learning community. I went off to some wonderful universities, the LSE and the University of Chicago, but I always knew I wanted to end up at a liberal arts college like CC. Luckily, I got a job at Bowdoin, which is exactly like CC, except that there is an ocean instead of mountains, and students take 4 classes at a time instead of 1. Teaching at Bowdoin for almost 25 years has given me a certain perspective on liberal arts education in the United States, and especially on the challenges confronting liberal arts students today. I would like to close with a few reflections on these challenges. First, let me say that I think the challenges confronting liberal arts students today are greater than they have ever been, certainly greater than when I was in college. When I look back at the world in which I went to college, and I hope I am not now succumbing to the sort of nostalgia that signals incipient senility, It strikes me as an unbelievably simple, naive, and even carefree world in comparison to the one in which we live now. Some of this has to do with economics. As students back then, we didn't have to worry as much about getting good jobs after college, and therefore we spent little time on resume building, hustling for internships, or networking. Or maybe that was just me. Technologically, we lived on a different planet. We typed our papers on typewriters, we listened to vinyl records, and we sometimes had to walk to the library to check out things called books. There were no CDs, DVDs, computers, email, cell phone, internet, Facebook, or Twitter. Why are these things necessarily obstacles to liberal learning? My drastically simplified, but I hope not overly simplistic answer to that question is because they increase the velocity at which we live and experience the world, and such velocity makes it increasingly difficult to experience or feel anything very deeply. This, of course, is not an altogether new phenomenon in the modern world. More than 130 years ago, the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche was complaining that haste and hurry had now become universal, destroying the possibility of genuine reflection, spirituality, and passion. But things have gotten much worse in this regard. What Nietzsche considered haste and hurry now looks like tortoise-like deliberation. Which leads me to my final and most curmudgeonly piece of advice. Slow down, take your time, don't try to figure things out too quickly, emancipate yourself from your devices, take long hikes in the Garden of the Gods, have marathon conversations at dinner, fall in love, which can be quite time-consuming, go to the library and actually browse in the stacks, find a few good books, and read them very slowly. One of the great gifts of a liberal arts college like CC is time and leisure, what the Greeks called skole, from which our word school comes. Take advantage of this gift as the busy world outside hurtles heedlessly forward. Thank you.
us go now and walk our sacred path of learning, sharing a collective vision that honors and builds on what is best for this community with thoughtfulness and mindfulness. And may we be blessed on this journey. Amen.